Welcome to the March meeting of the Planning Committee on the 3rd of March 2022. I'm Councillor Tony Fisher, I'm chairing the meeting. We've got the members of the committee who make the decision. We've got officers from Planning, Democratic Services and Legal who will give us advice as and when needed. If I could just ask all members to make sure they have the mobile phones turned off or onto silent, please. If the fire alarm happens, it will be a real event. There are no drills planned, so if that happens, please, out the door and down the stairs and meet in front of the Grand Hotel for roll call. Right, we'll move on to the first thing, which is apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Looker, who is substituted by Councillor Webb. We have apologies from Councillor Eyre, who is substituted by Councillor Widdowson. We have apologies from Councillor Barker, who is substituted by Councillor Cuthbertson. And we have apologies from Councillor de Gorn, and there is no substitute available. Okay, we'll move on to item 1 on the agenda, which is declarations of interest. Do any members have any declarations of interest which are not included on the register of interest? I see none, thank you very much. Item 2 will have to defer. The minutes are not available from the last meeting yet. They're not finalised, so we'll deal with those, carry them on to the next meeting. Item 3, public participation. We have no public participants. And so we move on to the actual plans list. Just one item tonight, which is the Lindum Group, York Road, Elvington. And it's a reserve matters application. So if you could introduce it, I'd be grateful.
Sorry. New Chair, Becky Eads, Head of Planning and Development Services. So today you've got a reserve matters application following on from the outline consent for the erection of 20 employment units that previously considered means of access and landscaping. So your application site is here. If I'll just run around it with my red line so you can see. I don't think this is probably as clear on there. So this is the access into the site from the B1128, and that's the northern part of the site you can see at the moment. So you propose site plan, which is the whole site, as you can see, the access in here, access road, and then the new units here, here, along with the, you can just see a turning details here. So the proposed elevations, I think what you would expect for industrial style units. Again, block B there, block C, and that's your approved landscaping as part of the outline permission. So you can see there's landscaping here and here. So you've got your 2 longer units there and the 2, well, sorry, 4 units just in here. And again, that's the illustrative landscaping scheme from this year. So again, you can see how your vehicles can come in, sweep round, and go back out along here. That is it from me in terms of the presentation. We don't have any updates for you.
Thank you very much. And since we have no public speakers, so have members got any questions they'd like to put to officers? Councillor Doty.
Just a quick one, Chair, thank you. I know it's Elvington Parish Council have asked for a stop sign at the exit to the site. Is that something that will be picked up through the manoeuvring arrangements for highways? Is it something that would be?
That's something we can look at in terms of discharge of conditions. That's a condition in terms of the arrangement between the access from the site onto the main road to the south. So we can look at the need for that.
Something you're going to likely to recommend?
I'd have to take the judgment of highways to see whether it's reasonable to ask for that. I don't see they'd have a problem with doing it, but whether it's truly necessary, I'm not sure in terms of whether you just put white lines along the bottom and that would suffice. I'm not sure in terms of where that request from the parish council comes from. I don't know if I don't think there's any history of vehicles coming straight through, but I will look at that in terms of discharge of conditions.
Okay.
As a supplementary to that, what is the speed limit on that section of road? If my memory serves me right, it was changed. I think it's 30 now.
It's 30 now. I think vehicles sometimes they looked at. I think it was the 75th or 85th quartile. It's slightly above 30, but yeah, the official speed limit is now 30. Yes.
Thought it was the 30 limit used to be further down, but they moved it back. Yeah. Thank you very much. Any further questions from members? Councillor Lomas.
Thank you. I'm on page 6. 3.3 about planting, and I know you I don't know if you can go back one in the presentation, I think it was. It's just quick, oh, maybe back a couple. Yeah, that one.
I knew where you read.
It just mentions here a reduction in planting at the entrance to the southern end of the site and fewer trees along the western boundary. Now, obviously, I don't know what the detail was in the original, but it is concerning if there's been a reduction in planting.
Yeah, that's the original drawings up there. Again, it's a matter for discharge of conditions rather than reserved matters, so we'd have to look at that. And I think those drawings are a little bit illustrative at the moment, but that unit on the left-hand side, they've actually pulled that down a bit. If you look between the two, they've pulled it down by a few metres, which limits the landscaping. But I think it might be quite hard to justify additional landscaping on planning grounds, given that it just sits between industrial units there. I think it probably more the focus would be on the landscaping at the top right there in terms of screening that from public views. But again, a reserve matter, discharge condition, we would look at what is feasible. But there's also where the blue line is, that's a culvert, and there might be issues in terms of internal drainage board and objections to planting in that area as well. So we would have to look at that, but we try and achieve as much planting as reasonably possible. But it might be hard to argue in terms of additional planting in that corner if they want to resist it.
So that's your 2018 that was approved as part of the, well, that was illustrated as part of the original. And then that's the one here, because obviously they've moved slightly, so there's not as much landscaping there. But from planning point of view, given that it's in an industrial area and you've got these units here, I don't think that we could necessarily argue that it was to such a great detriment that we wouldn't be recommending approval.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. But if that was the basis upon which outline permission was approved, if it's now not realistic to plant that number of trees, would it not be reasonable if the developer was requested to fund the planting of trees elsewhere by a Section 106 contribution to the parish council, for example? You know, if there's a reduction in 2 trees, they should pay for 2 trees off-site.
No, because this is a reserved matters application. Your Section 106 should be done as part of the outline. We will look at it, as Neil has said, as part of the discharge of condition to make sure that, yes, there's 2 trees there shown on this, but how else could it be accommodated throughout the site here, and if it can. We will have that discussion with them, but it's not to such an extent the 2 trees that we would be looking to refuse something on those grounds. But we will ask the question, absolutely.
Well, to me, it ought to be a goodwill gesture then, because again, if that was the basis upon which the outline was approved and it's not going through at that, then we could obviously kick back now with the reserved matters.
Your principle was established as at your outline, so we've already agreed the principle of this. It's just the detailing of the landscaping. And I think what we're trying to say is, given the area, given what's proposed, that we feel it's acceptable, but we will work with the applicant to try and accommodate the additional trees that were previously outlined. That's what we can do at this moment in time, given this is a reserved matters.
Thanks, Chair. Can I just ask then that you tell us, compared to the reserved matters, the outline and then this reserved matters application, which trees are existing on the site already and which are new plant trees, and what has changed at this point in time? Because now you point it out, it looks like there's quite significant change in the number of trees, and I do think it's a consideration we need to take.
I think to a degree it's a kind of artistic license one, in terms of at the top right there where they show the canopy is very small. But I think it is in terms of how they've drawn it, rather than the actual amount of space there will be for landscaping. I said that where they've got, I think it says 7 LT just to the south of the block of 4 units there. I mean, they could have shown them with fuller canopies to indicate more landscape. I think it is more of an illustrative issue rather than what would actually happen on the ground between the different schemes.
So I was thinking about the reserved matters plan. which is not that one, right?
Yeah,
That's
The outline, sorry. Can you go to the
That's that
outline? So the bottom left-hand corner of the new section, there's quite a large tree outlined there. Is that an existing tree or is that a new planting?
I understand it's an oak tree, and I understand that it was on that plan. It was drawn out inaccurately. If you look between the two, on that one, it's several metres further north. Whereas on the what they've not shown the full canopy, but on that one, it's more than that. That's it there. So that's the oak tree on there where they've kept it clear from parking, but it's wrongly plotted in terms of on the outline scheme.
Okay, and then the other two that were on that section to the left of the existing tree, they were new plant, were they?
Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Webb, then Councillor Willison.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully it's a quick one. I mean, I agree with the principle of what you're saying about you will go and speak to the applicants and make sure that what happens can happen. How do we get that written in as part of our decision tonight, I suppose? You know, how would we put that on would it be an informative? Is that appropriate for this sort of point? Yeah, so hopefully that would make it a bit clearer for everybody.
Yeah, we could. There was conditions on the outline. Hang on, I'll tell you. Did you say condition 6?
Condition 6, right. Condition 6 on the outline consent requires landscaping details. So even the outline scheme, although it was an outline matter landscaping, it was still conditioned the exact details. It was just the broad parameters, really.
And then we can put an informative
Yeah.
to say that we want to see as much landscaping as possible.
Councillor Willison and Councillor Waters.
I was just going to ask about the parking and how many are making sure that you've got EV chargers in there. Because I couldn't find it, and it could be it's in a different bit of paperwork that I haven't seen.
Just looking to clarify.
Yeah, condition 19 on the outline consent requires electrical vehicle recharging points shall be provided. Doesn't say a number, but it says, that there's a requirement for vehicle recharging points on the site.
And they're going to be relatively sensible, so I would imagine it's on every spot because that's where everything's moving to, or access to it from every spot.
We can't insist on it because we weren't detailed enough as part of the outline, but again, we can speak with them as part of this. Sorry, my microphone's missing.
Okay, now. Yep.
Yeah.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry to be so blunt, but can we just have a number of trees that were on the outline proposals compared with the number of trees that's now proposed in this reserve matters, please?
I don't know if we could insist exactly. I say it was illustrative, really, the landscaping scheme. It's broadly showing the areas where the trees and shrubs would go, and then it was covered by condition. But I think all we can reasonably do is be firm with them in terms of the degree of planting required. And I think particularly it's beefed it up along the eastern side to screen it from playing fields and open land.
So nobody's prepared to count what was on the outline and compare it with what's
No,
there
because
today?
it was the principle of the landscaping where it was approved as part of the outline, and then there was a condition that then looks at the specifics. So it might have said what you approved was the fact that this is where the landscaping will go and the principle of it there, and then you approved the principle of the landscaping, and then the condition as part of that needed the specifics. That's what we're saying we'll then approve. So you're getting into something but we won't necessarily have the right information on, because your original permission was an outline, and that's the whole point, it's outline, and then we've done it through the conditions, and that's where we will get that information. And as Councillor Webb has requested, we have an informative that says we have as much landscaping and trees as possible. That is a reasonable thing to do in planning terms.
Can I bring in Sandra Brannigan, who's our legal officer?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to add to what Becky's just said, in case it assists members, just to remind them that this is a reserve matters application for details of appearance, layout and scale. And at a reserve matters application, the only matters that can be considered are those reserve matters. and landscaping is not a matter for consideration before members today.
Thank you. Councillor Waters.
But surely the layout's changed by not having so much landscaping.
Yeah, I think obviously that it has that building on the left has shifted to the south, and there were two detached buildings at the top, and now they are attached. So I don't think there's a lot of difference in terms of the open space at the northeast corner, but obviously there is a reduction on the south on the block on the left. But I think it'd be hard to argue that that's a crucial area for landscaping within the scheme, given that it's in between industrial units. It's not prominent from outside the site. I don't think I could push it too hard in terms of that.
I just think it's highly misleading when you see one diagram as an outline which people approve, and then you get something different which comes at reserve matters that we're not even supposed to even comment on.
I think it's degree of difference. It is different. If it was a key area with the area at the northeast there, they did shift that to the south, and I said to them, well, you can't shift that. You know, it's a reserve matters scheme. That's agreed, but there's a degree of flexibility. I think they're altering the units to try and meet the particular needs of clients and so forth. But I think it's not materially different in the illustrative scheme in a meaningful way. And I don't think that the area where landscape is reduced at the south of the block on the left is really material in terms of concerns. But obviously, there would potentially be the reduction of a couple of trees on that site.
I won't be raising any of this if somebody had said it was perfectly reasonable to ask for a contribution for off-site tree planting.
We can't do that.
Well, again, I would put it on as an informative that concerns were expressed, and if the developer could see the way to discussions with the parish council.
It's possibly on the actual entrance to the site, probably an interesting area to look at.
Yeah.
On the main road there, what they could do, they've got to alter the access onto the road, and there's a verge there, so they might be able to improve the actual entrance into the scheme, which will benefit the village as well. So we can look at that. I think they'll be amenable to it.
Yeah, I would have thought so, but I would just like to see everybody agree to put that on some form of informative.
Well, when we get a proposal, that may be an informative that somebody wishes to attach when we get a proposal. Are there any of the members got questions to ask? Nope. In that case, I'll open it up to debate. Councillor Webb.
I propose we move as officer suggests with the informative that I mentioned earlier, and I would be happy to accept the other informative that Councillor Waters has just mentioned. Thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Pavlovich. Anyone else like to speak on the matter? Nope. In that case, can we just clarify the two informatives? One is that they should enter into negotiation with the parish council about providing possible extra trees at some other location, and yours was? As a goodwill gesture, and yours was? Just so you got it clear.
So for me, it was to make sure that we keep as much landscaping as possible, as was outlined in the outline.
Are they not the same thing? Because one of you wants as much landscaping as possible, and as does your.
I suppose you can combine the two then and suggest that if it's not possible to provide as much as originally suggested, if it would be reasonable to get in touch with the parish council and offer it off-site, it's an either or something.
Really struggling with doing that as an informative. I'm going to look at Sandra now. This is where I go, Sandra, legally, can we start?
Well, yes, I agree. I mean, I'm just not myself clear when we say what was originally suggested, because they weren't detailed plans on the outline, were they?
No, I think what we can do is we can put that we would like as much landscaping as, we could ask for as much landscaping as possible.
Yeah.
As just a note to say, please.
Okay, so I would like to keep my informative then, which was as much landscaping as reasonably possible. Okay.
I think that is the other one that I'm trying to get some. Sorry.
Maximising the landscaping on site is not feasible because of easement. Because of easements associated with services and such like, then compensatory landscaping.
We can't do that. We can't do something off-site as an informative. It can't.
The informative surely, as have been said many times in the past, are just gentlemen's agreements.
Yeah, but we've not. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry?
I think we have a clear legal thing here that that's not possible.
We can't ask for that. That, what councillor Webb is saying is reasonable. We can ask to maximise the landscaping on site. We can't then ask, say, if that's not possible, to look to give a contribution. That's not, we cannot do that. If we would have wanted a contribution, we should have done it at outline. That's where you secure your contributions.
I think this afternoon's been a very useful exercise in warning everybody about dealing with outline applications in the future, because to put it politely, we've been misled.
So it's been moved and seconded with the councillor Webb's request for an informative for as much landscaping on the site as possible. Okay, I'll move to the vote. All those in favour of that, please show.
I got 12, but I might.
12.
No, I can't with you. No, so yeah, 13.
Forgetting me. Okay, all those against? Any abstentions? Councillor Ross has abstained. Right. Okay, there is no urgent business, and so therefore I can declare the meeting closed. Thank you.